All right, welcome back to the Sean Trey Show. I have an awesome guest with me, Mr. William Morris. Now, we were just talking, and I asked how should I define you, and that's such a crazy question, because when you have to sit there and think, oh, like, what the hell am I,
Right, like this.
But you had said creator, creative force, creative power in the universe. Tell me how you identify. And you wear lots of hats. What are some of those hats that you wear?
First and foremost, thank you for this opportunity to be
Awesome.
on this platform. But when I define myself as a creative, I could think back to when I was about 6 or 7 years old, just being a young man with his father, creating like books as far as like illustrative books.
Nice.
And that, when I think back, that has spiraled into just what I do today as far as creating with my mind, creating with my hands, creating as a musician. And it's just, so when I define myself, it really encompasses a creative, because though I have things that are paying the bills, I still have to find an outlet to where I'm using my gifting with my mind and with my hands. So I would define myself as a creative.
Nice. Now, what you are a musician, and
Yes.
what music do you create? What instrument do you play? Or how do you go about that? Tell me about your musical process.
Right. So I am a vocalist. I actually am currently, for the past year, I've been taking some keyboard lessons, not so much so I can be the next Stevie Wonder or Maestro. But I find even as a vocalist or even an artist, you want to find yourself being accountable to your craft. And sometimes people who just play by ear, which is not wrong, because I sing by ear. But you want to have another instrument or another thing that will help you strengthen or sharpen just what you do and do so well. I mean, I've been doing since I was 9. So I don't really have to think when I sing. But now when you get into the realm of being around other singers, or you're trying to put out projects that will be listened on different mediums, like you have to have a process as an artist, and you have to be open to not necessarily being critiqued, because it's a kind of touchy subject when you're critiquing an artist's work. But you definitely want to make sure you're presenting yourself the best way possible. So I do that by forcing myself to take keyboard lessons now, so I can be the best vocalist I can possibly be.
Well, the other thing about learning like with keyboard or a musical instrument is that there is I have one friend, and his name is Sa. And Sa speaks guitar. He doesn't play guitar. Sa speaks guitar. And that instrument, when he plays it, it lives. I've got this guitar here on my wall, which is not a great guitar, but it sounds really nice. And it was made by a local luthier here in Vietnam. And it's a really nice tone, but when I played, it's okay. He came over one day and he picked up that guitar, and it sang. It sang, and like, it was so beautiful. And this is an analogy too for something that I love, is like, it's like when Michelangelo would approach the stone, before it was carved, and the sculptor is able to see the innate beauty that is in that stone when the rest of us see a stone. You know what I mean? And that's what I love about people who really can play. I don't play guitar like that. I'm a campfire guitarist, and I like it. And that's okay. It helps me, doing what I do, but sound makes it sing. Now, how did you? I want to hear your story. So you started when you started singing. You said when you were 9.
Yeah, I started singing when I was 9. I have a background in church, so my grandmother, it was just one of those things. I wasn't a sports driven. I was very paint, music, singing type thing, and she saw the gift in me. And I remember I was like 7 or 8, and she was like, "Hey, you're almost 9. You'll be able to do the choir soon. You'll be able to do the choir." And what started out as me just singing in churches, it just grew to just a bigger platform. And again, I was a background singer growing up, meaning in choirs, it's mostly a 3-part harmony, so a tenor, alto, and a soprano. So I was just doing the tenor. And though I had great teachers, they didn't necessarily push me to sing like leads. And I didn't see myself as a lead singer. I just enjoyed music. I mean, I was one of those ones that in private, I would be outside and the wind would be blowing and I would just start singing and creating my own songs. But when it came to singing in front of people, I can hold the background. But as I got older and got into college and started singing more ensemble and like solo type music where it wasn't necessarily like a full body of singers, but it was like 1 lead and 3 backgrounds type thing, I just found a new love and passion for writing, and
nice.
It's been history ever since.
That's awesome. Now, there was you got to give love. I grew up in singing in church choirs as well. So I have an affinity for that, man. I grew up all through high school and sang in gospel choirs when I went to college. And it was awesome.
Nice. Yeah, same here.
It was beautiful. And there is, I am simply as well a background singer.
Yeah.
No aspirations to sing lead, and I'm a baritone as well. So like, there's not too many baritone solos out there,
Right.
And so, but the thing is that those roots of musicality are planted deep when you grow up with that music, with that rhythm, with that the soul of music, And I think that that's something that people who come from a church choir background, there was that like that when I'm trying to figure out how to say it. My wife sings from a tradition where they don't have that, and when she watches like music that is has roots in gospel, and I try to explain to her that there is that soul that has to come through the music. The music, your body, is a place that is a conduit for, in the Christian tradition, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. And they don't always have that. We take that for granted, that there is that. Now, you're singing in choirs. What really inspired you about the music that you were singing?
Honestly, even when you think of the world that we live in now, where there's so much craziness, suffering. Right. I mean, there's been suffering since the beginning of time. But I think even when you think of the crux of gospel music and just people who have found that soul in music, it's almost like it became an outlet and a hope, not for crowds to hear you, but so you can get through your trauma or get through just your high and low moments. And I truly do believe beyond me singing in a choir or beyond me having like my roots in a church, the music and what I was singing about this gave me hope. And it gave me a reason it just gave me a sense of liberty that I didn't have just on a day-to-day. And now beyond, because again, you can't really explain that as far as like, oh yeah, can you feel that? But it's like when you allow the arts to connect in an area in your life that you feel, the best way I can say it is like you have no hope. Like arts gives you like that plane or those wings to fly beyond your situation. And honestly, that's really what music and just singing does for me. It starts with me first. Like I tell every artist, like unless it resonates with you, like, yes, we have some phenomenal singers out there. and there's a lot of singers that can sing me under the table, but I definitely know, like, whenever I sing, it's resonating for me, and I want to share that with other people and allow them to find their own, I don't know if this is the right word, but resonation with themselves. And we create music because that's all music is. It's an opportunity for you to express your heart song. It's almost like a language. Like when I hear certain songs, I tell a real close colleague of mine, like, man, this song has given me language that I didn't know how to frame it, but I understand it because, again, music allows you to get into a space of understanding.
I believe that. I went to, like, I hadn't sung in a while. My wife took me with her, and I'm a very reserved person day to day. You know, I kind of keep myself chill because I have to carry a lot. I got a lot of people that depend on me, and I just kind of got to shoulder through, you know?
Right.
And I went to this music class, vocal class with my wife, and her singing teacher's amazing, and my wife is amazing, you know, and she's like a powerhouse of a singer. And I'll send you some links when we're done.
Yeah, you gotta send me. I gotta hear this beautiful voice here.
She's a powerhouse. So we were going there and singing, and you know, and I was doing classes with them, but some of the songs didn't resonate. And then one of the songs that for me has always resonated is the song Let It Be. And because it is for me, and I know not everyone's into the Beatles, but for me, it was just that singing to a higher power. You know, I recognize, you know, it's just like, and surrendering. And the moments where you don't have answers, and I sang that song with all my heart and soul one day in our class, and by the time I was done, I was crying.
Wow.
And they stopped and stared at me and were like,
what's happening here?
Where did that come from? You know what I mean? Right. And they were just like, that was, you know, and it was cathartic. It was very cathartic. I think it was just like that release and that power of that emotion that was able to come through. Mm-hmm. So you were singing, you came up and you got into ensembles. Now, where did you go from there?
And again, it's everything about just even the music career I have, like, and even with me delving into like marketing and branding and
we're definitely getting into that. I'm excited to talk to you about that too.
And it just began to snowball into where, because you know, in this realm, like finding the right resources can be hard. And then dealing with people like, okay, are you coming to take my spot? Like, are you like, really, why are you here? So I really built just my pursuit of the arts on, I enjoy doing this. Some people don't want to help me. I don't necessarily have the golden spoon to just do whatever I want, right. But I found a knack for, I use what I have, and I connect with other like-minded individuals, and we produce our own content.
See, and this is my wife is more on the music side, and I'm more on the film side. I came up through film, and I do production and directing and filmmaking, and you know, a ton of music videos for artists, a ton of video content for people that is branding oriented. And one of the craziest things is that when I even started this, it was still prohibitively expensive to get started because the cameras were, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 to get it. Now anyone can do it. Now we've entered this golden age of home production of music and simple video production that there shouldn't be, if anyone wants to be a singer or a filmmaker or an artist of any type, you have a chance. Not saying that everything's going to be handed to you, but you have a chance to create your own content and to do it frequently enough and that you can get seen. Because again, we're in an age, it's regularity. You know, I wish the internet was all about just quality, but it's
you got to be in front of people's faces. Like you got to be out there.
it's got to be out there. It's got to be regular content, you know, and I think that that's something that's really special to me, is that we've entered this place that people can do it. Now, how did you get, what was the thing that happened that because tell me about your brand building and marketing business. I'd love to hear about that, because that to me was the reason that I sought you out, and that's just such an interesting concept.
Yeah. So again, like any other college student, you're thrown in this world of, you got to find what you want to major in, and you got to stick to it. And then, but as a creative, he's like, no, I don't want to commit to anything just yet. So it wasn't until my junior or even senior year that I really began to hone in on like what really piqued my interest, because I thought I came in as an economics major, and I was doing that because a family member of mine was like, yeah, do economics. And economics, though it makes the world go round, I was falling asleep in class.
I feel
but
you.
It wasn't until I got into the class, which is the marketing consumer behavior class, which talks more about the psychology of marketing, which I really didn't know about, even though it hits our faces every day. You go to the movies, you shop, you eat at a certain restaurant, like it's all marketing, and it's subliminal messaging. And that really got me into like, I love the idea of how you connect with people without them knowing you're connecting with them. And then that just spiraled into, well, how can I apply that to, because during college, I was designing a lot of the flyers for our concerts, for my gospel concerts. But then I went on to get my master's in entertainment business at a school here called Full Sail University. And a lot of people started, like creators, like, can you design a logo? Can you, like, how do I get more followers? Or how do I produce content that really connects with the audience I'm trying to connect with? And also the biggest thing is, if you're a singer, how do I get signed? And then coming to realize everybody doesn't have the opportunity to get signed. So you're not going to be an artist anymore. So it's like,
you got to keep creating. Like, what's your avenue to get it out there? Yeah.
Right. So the idea, what got me into marketing, is just the concept of connecting with people. How do you connect with people? How do you find a way to where you're really meeting or touching a pain point? And when I say pain point, it's not a bad thing, but something that makes people lean in to it. Because I find in marketing, though we want to reach everybody, at the end of the day, you still have to hone in on who are you reaching. Because if you try to reach everybody, you're not going to be effective. So
that was interesting, because I when I first met my wife, I had been doing, marketing videos for a lot of people. I was doing videos for hair salons, for UFC fighters. I was making, videos for everyone. And like right there, you have very different target demographics, I mean, like, it's completely different. And the content you're putting in is completely different. I started doing media for my wife. And then all of a sudden I started like looking at the back end of Facebook, and we were like, who should we be, gearing your music towards? And when I showed her, I was like, 70% of your fans are women, and like the majority of those are between 18 and 35, and right there, we started going, hey, like, we have to really think about, not that you have to create for that, but her thing was not, and she had told me, she's like, I'm not going to be the girl that's going out dancing in, something really, provocative, because that's not my brand. And she was 100% right. And she understood. And then when I looked at the back end of her content, it was like, yeah, it's all woman. And they very much identified with her girl power messages and her strong female energy. And that's awesome. But for a lot of people, they don't necessarily know what their demographic might be, or what they're pitching, And so I think that, but it also comes to, I don't think people understand their brands. And I think that As a marketing person, how do you approach that?
Because again, being in this field for almost 10 plus years as an entrepreneur and a creative, and trying to find what path is working and what's not working, like a lot of people, they get caught up on these assumptions that as long as I have a logo or as long as I do this one thing, it's going to work. But the biggest thing about marketing is, for one, whatever you're selling, it has to have a strong message. Because bottom line, whoever you're talking to, the message has to get across. It can't be everywhere. But when I connect with a new client, we try to figure out what their message is, like why are they doing this? And then from there, we create if they don't have a simple system to where they can get analytics, so like a free Facebook page or a website that has Google Analytics attached to it. This way, as you're trying to figure out who your audience is, but you're pushing out content, at least you can see, well, who is already coming to you? Because that's the easiest thing to start any type of strategy is, okay, whose attention do you already have? And then from there you build. But some people, again, I understand the grind. I understand I just got to make money, or I understand I got to figure something out. But even in the midst of that hustle and bustle, you have to be able to take a step back, because if you're going to do this for the long term, you have to start putting things in place so that you can find out who you're catching.
It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter.
Right.
You know, I mean, because everyone can work hard, but that doesn't mean it's like running on a treadmill. Like, that might be great, but if your goal is to be a marathon runner, then you need to get your ass outside. You know what I mean? And you gotta start running marathons. And I mean, granted that the treadmill is going to give you a lot of the training and conditioning, but it's not the same thing, and there is not that progress, you know? And so I feel like I personally believe a lot of us deal with self-imposed limitations. And I think people simply don't necessarily do things sometimes because they don't understand it. And just learning about it is scary. In the pandemic time period, 2019, I set up our home studio. And I just kept running into this problem constantly of not getting back the sound in post with our mixes. That was what I wanted. You know, it would always be something, this or there. And I was like, I'm not going to be our mix engineer, but I'm going to sure as hell learn enough information so that I know at least how to communicate with them to get the results I want. And it was about, when I gained that education, I gained the power, and now I can communicate with people in a language they speak.
Right.
And I think that sometimes that information is one of the greatest assets that people can have. And that's why I like someone who's helping people with branding and marketing, because I feel at the end of the day, you're conveying information. Yeah.
And if you're able to take a step back, because at the end of the day, so if you're an artist, you do have a sound, you do have a message, and then an image to go along with that. But as you continue to grow, like, you need to be mindful, like, okay, is this something you still, like, you want to keep up? Because some artists, they get into the rat race of, oh, this artist is doing that, let me maintain, let me do that image. And they think that's what's going to work, but then it starts to that inner conflict of, and it's not necessarily like be provocative, not be provocative, but it's more so like, once you are, it has to be true to you, because you're going to have to maintain that.
I completely agree. And there was a singer here that was in Vietnam who was a great singer, and her thing was love ballads, and she did the best love ballads. That was her thing. Well, suddenly this new wave of music came through where everyone was doing like more dance remixes, and there was always like a rap verse in there. And this lady who did these love ballads and who was exceptional at love ballads came in and crossed over to this new style, which I give her credit for trying. But it didn't work for her because there was no passion in it. There was no honesty in it. It was something that was just done to try to keep up with the new trends. And it wasn't It wasn't honest. And like you said, you have to have that honesty to what you're doing. And sure, you can do it in your own way. I loved it. Like right before he died, Johnny Cash did all these covers of songs that he loved in his own style. And you're like, damn, you know, like the song Hurt. Like more people know that song now by the Johnny Cash cover even than the original, because his was so iconic. He made it his own.
Right.
So not to say you can't adapt,
but do it in your own way.
Exactly.
Because again, one thing about fans and artists, like especially if you're trying to tap into a market that has a lot, like a strong cult following, like they will smell a rat from 30 miles away. Again, it's all trial and error, but you got to be ready for if you get in the room with that audience or whatever, like, because they're going to ask those questions. And if you're true to yourself, artistry is such a fingerprint and there's just a way you do it. Like, it has to be real, because in this world, especially with bringing it back to everything that's going on, people are looking for truth. They're looking for people that they can be genuine around, even if it's a different understanding than I have. Even if it's abrasive. If that's you.
Yes. Yeah,
that's
exactly. Yeah. There was this one, I like to read books on philosophy, whatever it is. And there's this one philosophy, the practice in the philosophy of Stoicism called the view from above. And what view from above is that you kind of essentially just visualize floating above yourself and looking at your own situation from a different perspective. And the idea is like, when you fly somewhere, you get a window seat. And, you know, you were driving to the airport and all that traffic was so stressful. And, you know, getting through all those gates was stressful. And then suddenly you take off and you look down and that airport's like this. Those cars are like this. And then suddenly it's small. But you're also able to even just look at your whole city and go, perspective. That little dot right there, that's my house. You know what I mean? That's where all of my stress lives, in that tiny little dot, you know? And I think that one of the things that, you know, I learned, my dad was a director of marketing for a university, and, you know, and he would always try to teach us, like, to ask questions about how things are presented, you know, and you have to look at it. And like, it's really hard for an artist. Like when I've been watching my own podcast, I'm like, I stutter. Shit. I didn't know I stuttered.
We all do.
Yeah, no, but like and I'm like, wow, okay, that's how I talk, and it's not a problem, but I never realized it because we are not able to see ourselves in physical terms, but as a brand, it is even harder, you know, like, who are you? You know, and you can do whatever you want, but you still have to be able to look at yourself and go, you know, how are we approaching that? So go ahead.
And dealing with clients and really being able to see themselves from that. What was the philosophy you just said?
The view from above.
The view from above. It's the fear of it, because it's like, oh my God, what am I going to look like?
Scary.
Yeah, like, but it's the businesses that have, again, longevity. They put themselves around people to help them see that, because again, it only makes you better. Like, again, I don't hit every note, and I'm a live singer. Like, even when it comes down to me being in the studio and singing live, like, the studio is a whole other beast, because the mic picks up
completely
everything.
Different. My wife is amazing in the studio. Live. She's amazing at live, and she sings with power. You know, she's up there belting it out. But you know, when you come in the studio, that studio mic. And I came in, I'm not great in the studio. You know, and my wife is like, you have to sing much softer. You have to sing much more controlled. And I didn't know that, you know, and it was just like, I grew up in gospel choirs where they were like,
let it all hang out. Like,
you like,
let it out
louder, you know, right. We are not loud enough yet. And I'm just like, wow, I can pull it back. Wow. How do you do that? You know?
But being able to be in a situation to where you can see those flaws but don't look at
Yes.
them so much as flaws. But okay, how can I compensate a little bit more in another area so that it can smoothen the flaw? Or if it takes me to be a little bit more disciplined in the area, I can remove the flaw. But I need to see this if I want to be a strong brand and continue to do what I'm doing.
Well, and see, this is one of the things. This is why, and it, like, and I look at it this way, right? I am not good at everything. The stuff that I'm good at, I think I'm pretty good at it. I think that I'm really good at producing like video content. I'm really good because I'm really regimented. I have create great checklists. I'm really good at getting projects done. You want to ask me to mix something? Oh, there's no way in hell. But yet for like what we were doing, and like I was trying to edit a music video for my wife last night, and I shot it all in 4K, and it was beautiful. But then I was like slogging through it, and I was like, I don't know how to use proxies when I edit, and I'm like, oh my god, my computer's crashing every 2 seconds. It was beyond my ability, and at that moment, what I love to do is to find people who can assist me. Because I'm actually, even when we're done with this, I want to pick your brain on some of the things the challenges I'm having with my wife, because like she sings so well in English, and my goal for her is to jump into the US market, but I mean, how do I brand her there? How do we present her there? She's an Asian woman who can sing awesome Broadway and has a voice kind of like Karen Carpenter. When she sings Karen Carpenter, she just sounds like straight up like the Carpenters. But she's also able to sing. Here's my wife was for the Lion King, the Vietnamese version. She sang Nala, so she sang Beyonce's vocals.
Wow!
Yeah. So Spirit in Vietnamese was my wife. And so she's got like the two sides, right? But her English, I think she sings better in English than she does in Vietnamese. She sings both really well. But, when her name is Phương Vi, how would you brand that in America? How would you, do you come in with just V? Do I come in, it's 2 letters? People are going to pronounce it wrong? And you got all these things that you got to think about. And because she won Vietnam Idol, in Vietnam, her brand was synonymous with Phương Vi Idol. People called her that. But you don't want to use the Idol name in the US because that's copyrighted. You know what I mean? So again,
True.
These are things that, like, again, it's, and one of the things that I think that people and artists need to be made aware of is you are not supposed to have to know everything.
No, you can't.
You can't. And one of the challenges is that you need to find people that you can trust, because spending money is what you will have to do.
Yes.
You have to. But no way around it. But spending money wisely is important.
Yeah.
Like for me, for actors, right? There's this whole market around, I don't know if the same market is there for musicians as much, but there is a whole market around actors who are trying to break into the industry. And the people that are kind of the gatekeepers are casting directors, and the casting directors run all of these workshops for actors, right? Well, is that ethical for the people that are, holding the keys to the gateway to also be charging people for their workshops? You know what I mean? And some people say yes, it is, but at the same, I don't know. I don't have all those answers. But I do know that if you're going to spend that, then you should spend it on the right people.
Correct.
You know what I mean? It's not about let's fight the system, but you do need to know how to navigate the system.
Right. And even because, again, you can even with marketing, you can throw a whole lot of money at marketing and none of it might stick. So you got to be like, what is your goal? And even I'm all for with sewing into your career and being around, being able to get access to people who have been doing this for years or have won awards. But even at the end of the day, once you invest, yes, you take that knowledge, but the question is, what are you going to do with it? Because you still have to come to the reality of, I've been to a number of workshops. I've been to a number of platforms that gave you opportunities to sing, and you might be in front of a crowd of people or whatever. And a lot of it didn't go anywhere. So I was
Yeah.
still left with, well, what am I going to do with my music? And it caused
Yeah.
me to really lean into like, well, why do people buy my albums? Or why do people still request? Like, there's a song that I did, I released it in 2016 called Dwell. And I haven't sang that song like live in almost 3 or 4 years, but it's the song that people continue to pull up, continue to mime or dance to, and things like that. And it puts you in a perspective of, as an artist, for one, it has to resonate with you, but two, you have to put it put it out there to where people can find it. And like, so like the Spotify, so like the YouTube, and like, and when you're able to have data like that, now I can go back and say, well, I have almost 17, well, it's, again, compared to some people, that's not a lot, but I have almost 17,000 organic views or spins to this one song that I put no marketing behind,
Yeah.
but it's just me releasing it. So now I can go back and say, maybe I should do something, and now do something intentional with this song. Okay, what people are listening to this song, and whether the gatekeeper lets me in or not, I can connect with these people.
Exactly. And the cool part is too, is like YouTube changed the game.
Right.
You know, Spotify and stuff changed the game, but I really think even more so YouTube. Why? Because collaboration is king.
Right.
You know, because it's like, for so long through marketing and all this, it's like, imagine you have a bunch of pebbles, right? And you're dropping these little tiny pebbles in a pond, and it creates these ripples. Well, you're dropping still in the same spot. The best thing you can do if you want to make waves in that pond is to drop pebbles regularly, because it will create things and it will start creating. But if you can connect to other people who can also be dropping pebbles at the same time as you, suddenly you have much more of a likelihood to create waves. And if you're dropping pebbles in different places, then you're able to create this network that makes bigger change. It makes a bigger, reaction or impact. And so I think that's where I'm. If people ask me what's the number one thing you should do, I'm like, find awesome people that you can align with and collaborate, whether that's filmmaking, writing, music making, whatever it is, collaborate, because go ahead.
Collaboration has been the meat to my career.
Tell me about that.
And because it all started with, okay, I have a heart to sing. I have a heart to put on events or concerts pre-pandemic. But it's like, with that desire, to think people that you thought would be the ones to be like, oh yeah, come on, we'll help you with this. No, because either they thought you were competition, or they thought you weren't qualified enough, or it was just not meant for us to connect. So that put me in a perspective of, well, let me find those that have the same mindset as me, and because they didn't help you either, well, shoot, let's come to the table, let's produce our own content. And from there, what I did well for visuals or singing, somebody else was good at administrative, and then they had a different genre of music that they did well, and we just brought it to the thing. So the past 5 to 6, 7 years, like everything that I have done, even when it came to my form of success, I use that as an opportunity to connect with others that were either where I was or were currently where I was at that current time. And we made music. We did a collab. We did a mixtape. We did collaborative concerts to where it was a number of us on the ticket, and my audience came, their audience came. Yes. But together, our audience now were introduced to a whole new level of content. So now it pushed everybody. Everything about what I do is a heart to connect people and to push them. So if you want to sing, let's figure out how you're going to sing. And if I have something in my platform that can help push you, Come on, because I've been there,
Yeah.
and I'm still
Yeah.
pushing. But I've also learned with that too, you can't believe it more. You can't believe it more than they believe it for themselves.
Yes.
Because what I got into a mixed frustration was like, because I know the formula. You got a
Yeah.
song. We'll work with the film person to do the video. We'll get in the studio. We'll sell tickets. We'll do the shirts, like the whole package. But then they're like, "Well, I'm not feeling good today."
And they
I'm
drop
like,
out.
"Huh?"
Yeah. You got to do it. You got to stay. You got to follow through, man. And that's the thing. Like, success, I say this, is a war of attrition. You cannot back down. You know, you look at people that make it. Certainly, there are plenty of people who made it by, you know, let's say there's some people who were discovered or got there by luck. But the majority got there because they hustled and
Yeah.
they put in the time. Or they had someone who had put in the time for them. You know, because let's say if people who have connections, you know, there are those people who are born into musical families, but like they might have had, their parents might have put the time in. You think that it's easy for people, but like someone somewhere put in time. You know what I mean? And put in the work. And I think that that's important to remember. Is like, God knows I would love it to be handed to me on a silver platter.
Right, like just give it. But we have a value for it now, because those of us who are finally seeing the fruit of our labor, you just have a gratitude and a thankfulness too. But like you appreciate it more because you knew what it was like before you got to this point.
When we write screenplays, I study screenplay. So I'm doing my master's in script writing and
nice.
movie writing. And one of the most important thing when you write a movie is to have obstacles, big ones, because the harder it is for your character to reach their goal, the more it's valued. So I God knows that I have had my challenges in my life, but I'm thankful for everyone because it makes it better. Not saying that I wouldn't like a little bit of help here and there.
Yeah.
But, you know, I value it. Now let's imagine a new client comes to you. What's some of the advice that you would give them?
Now, is it as an artist or as like an entrepreneur or?
Let's say an artist.
An artist. I would definitely, the first thing is asking them, like, why are you doing this? Like, what is your why? Because when they answer that, and sometimes they'll give you a why, but in a few months later down, that why may change a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's that why that will keep you when those obstacles come.
Yeah.
It's the why that will remind you, this is why I'm staying in the. I remember one day, for one project, I was in the studio for like 12 hours,
Damn.
12 hours. But for one, I was doing it for myself. Like I was doing it because this is a goal that I'm striving for. This is what I invested in. Like, if nobody's going to make sure it comes out, I'm going to make sure.
Right.
But it's knowing that why. First and foremost, because it's easy to say, okay, let's get the best branding, let's get your image together, let's do all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
But we all know that fun stuff to capture a 3-minute video takes 8 hours to try to get that one thing. And the fun stuff isn't the majority of what this career is all about. You got to really be in this to be in this. Even when it comes down to how do you connect with your fans after you've been worn out, you're tired from singing, you're ready to go home. But yet these fans came out.
Does a great job of it? Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
The Rock.
But I mean, look what but it shows because
he came up as a wrestler. And wrestling is all about the fans. It is interactive. It's all interactive. You go out, you're getting them. Yeah, they're getting geared up. You know, and he makes a point on his Instagram to, like, when he comes home, you know, and he sees, or whenever there's a tour bus driving through his neighborhood, the celebrity tours, he'll always drive up and have his phone out, and he's like, "Hey, you guys see The Rock?" You know. and everyone's freaking out. But like, you know, one of the things that's like, he knows what he's doing. I think he's a genuinely cool guy, but he's also smart. You ever go to Vegas? What do you notice when you walk into the casino? Ding, 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 ding. You hear it everywhere. That is psychology. That is the psychology of keeping people going. Because if they only had the one machine making a noise right in front of you, there were no bells, but people would stop playing. Yeah. But when you see other people winning, you'll put that money in. And I think that people have to kind of remember that too. So sorry, I'll be quiet.
No, it's because
that was the first thing you said. The giving the fan, telling them to like, what's their reason. So go ahead.
Yeah, knowing their why, and always know that the end goal is to connect with your audience. Now, no one's saying for you to do anything that's going to cause you to bodily harm or like, okay, you need rest. Because some artists, like, they get so caught up in the performance and just what comes with being an artist that they forget that we do need rest, or our bodies will make us rest. But the thing that makes it puts such a sour taste in my mouth is when I see artists and performers, and we all have burnout, but those fans don't know that. And I did a concert with CeCe Winans. She's a legend in the gospel world.
I know CeCe Winans, man.
And one thing that just me as an independent artist, like being in the presence of someone of her caliber, she didn't have to be nice at all. Her sound check was right before when I went on to perform.
She's like gospel royalty, man.
Right. But sometimes when people have those titles, even with the gospel royalty, and you see an image of like, oh my God, they seem so nice. But when you get to see them on stage, it's just like total. And but she was leaving her sound check and she was heading to her car. And she saw me and my team were about to go up, and she already had the window up. So it wasn't like she was obligated to communicate at all. But she was going to roll down the window, but she leaned over and she opened the door. And she was like, you guys about to perform? And we were like, yes, ma'am. She was like, well, y'all do great. And then it was good to have a good person in your team, because my friend Ramses, he was like, hey, Sissy, you mind if we get a photo with you? And she was like, sure. She got out of the car and took a photo. She had she wasn't all dolled up, even though she looked amazing.
Yeah, right.
But any artist could have used that as, I'm not performance ready or whatever. But that really stuck with me because she didn't have to do that. And it was another artist, I forget, I think it was the Isaac brothers, the Isaacs, or it's some quartet family band that's from Nashville. And they were on the same ticket. And we were in Florida. So Florida during the summer, especially June, July, rain. You never know when it's going to rain. Okay. It rained right when they got on stage. Like, oh man, like it was poor. It was an outdoor event. And what I took from that, instead of them getting off the stage, I mean, they had to make sure the electrical stuff was together, but the electric didn't come back on. But they saw that their fans were standing out in front of the stage. Them guys sung to their fans a cappella, and like, it was just one of those moments. Like, that's why they've been in the industry as long as they have.
It's about more than fame. It has to be about more than fame. You have to do this because you love it, because you are passionate about it. And I think because you have a story or something to tell. You have to have a mission that is, and it doesn't have to be so, you're going to end world hunger, you're going to end, but you do have a mission that is of some sort that you are trying to convey. And just to be an awesome human being. And like, I met my favorite story is one of my favorite celebrities is Jeff Goldblum. Absolutely amazing actor. And if you didn't know, an exceptional jazz pianist.
Really?
Like, unreal. Look him up on Spotify. Jeff Goldblum and his orchestra. It's amazing.
Okay.
They performed at Coachella. It's really good. They're
Wow.
really, really amazing. So I'm in line in Hollywood. I was living in West Hollywood at the time, and I was sitting there and I was checking out, and I had gotten they made these amazing burritos there. They had these steak burritos at the Whole Foods in West Hollywood. And I looked over and I put it down. And all of a sudden I hear this silvery voice. How are those?
No way. No way.
And I was just like, you're busy. I'm between work and I'm just ready to go home. I was like, oh, these burritos are delicious. What in the world is happening? Yeah, it's him. And Jeff Goldblum and I had this amazing conversation while we were waiting in line. We had about, it's about 5 minutes. There's a ton of people. We just chatted the whole time. Some people remember, and again, the view from above. You come back to that. We are all tiny little individuals stuck on this giant, or this tiny little planet in the middle of this huge universe.
Yeah.
I really believe that it's important to really remember who you are, to know who you are, and just to be cool with that. Now, what inspires you?
What inspires me is being able to see other creatives thrive in their art, in their creativity.
I love that.
Because again, it's so easy, and again, it just proves the even more fact of how I'm a creative, because I'm so many things. I love music. I love cartoons. I love thought-provoking films. I love just things, social justice. Like I love a variety of things.
Yeah.
So for me to just be so pigeonholed on only like this certain thing, but when I see other people who are in other areas or arenas of arts or creativity, just seeing them thrive, because everybody can't do, like when you look at architecture,
Right.
like it's like when you know what goes into them, like even the blueprints, like
Right.
it's like for somebody to create that is a phenomenal thing. Like, or even a story, like when people tell me, again, there's bad content out there, but
Agreed.
being a creative and a content producer myself, anybody who can start from A and make it to the finish line of any
Yes.
type of project,
Yes.
I give them kudos.
Right.
Because beyond the idea, you producing it, getting the actors, getting the funding, and actually being bold enough to put it out there, that deserves some sort of pat on the back.
I agree.
Now, if you continue to do it, that's another thing. But I
Right.
just love seeing people thrive in their creativity.
Now, if you could go back in time and give advice to a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give yourself?
I would tell myself, it's okay to be out of the box. It's okay to not fit the mold of what everybody else is doing. And I had that mindset as a younger version of myself, but I didn't necessarily have somebody to give me not so much permission, but to encourage me and to affirm that in me, to say, it's okay for you not to like sports like everybody else. It's okay
Right.
for you to like these type of films, because again, there's other people out there that need the affirmation that you have, and it's
Yeah.
your boldness that will create another genre. The genres we have today, though they are ironclad and the standards, they were once not the standard. It just happened to grow into that. And I think
Right.
us as people who live in like a tunnel, like if you're like, I'm an 80s baby, so I'm 33 years old, but that 33-year-old window, anything outside of that, it's like, oh, that never happened before. Oh, it was
Right.
never a heat wave before. Oh, what is this? But if you take a step back and really look at the bigger picture, there was some things that we hear it all the time. There's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
But we live in a world that makes you think that.
Yeah. Right.
But just being okay with being out of the box. Because if everybody was the same, it would be boring.
Right.
It would be boring.
I like that. Now, what is your dream? What if you could accomplish anything? What would you like to do?
Well, the biggest thing is to have financial freedom, like to not have that like chain on my back. But outside of that, is to create from just a genuine place.
I love that.
Like to create like everything that I'm doing that now, but like my dream is to be able to continue to create on my terms.
I like that.
Whatever I see, go and do it. Like I tell people I've gotten a lot of no's, but I tell people too, just because they say it's a no doesn't mean I have to be okay with that. Like, no, let's find the yes. Just because they couldn't do it doesn't mean I can't do it.
Right. Right.
But I want to be able to dream on my own terms, to create on my own terms, and be able to pass that down.
Exactly. You might be sitting in a small pond and everyone's telling you no, but you don't realize that you're in the wrong pond.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Well, I really appreciate your time today, man. I really wanted to say, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience? Any last bits of awesome wisdom? Well,
I mean, I would just tell any creative out there, and creative, it does not mean you have to be a graphic designer. Creative, like you could be a creative cook, because when it comes to ingredients, there's some creativity out there. But I will share this with all the creatives out there in whatever lane you're in. Create from your heart. If it resonates with you, it's going to resonate with somebody. And though you may have not have connected with those it resonates with right now, it's for somebody, because it resonates with you.
Yes.
And you're not the only one. You're not alone in wanting to pursue the dream that you want to pursue. So continue to create, and just know that there's other people out there like you, and we need you. We need every aspect of the dreamer, the creative. So don't give up.
I tell people your tribe is out there. Keep creating the content and find them. Find them, because they're out there. You just have to keep going. I want to say thank you so much for today. This has been a beautiful conversation.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
I know there's so many other qualified people that could talk to you about business and pursuing your passion, but sometimes they aren't easily approachable or even willing. So here I am. Let's talk purpose and the steps you're going to take to get there. My aim is to encourage you, to challenge you, and give you hope to go, to move forward. As aspiring creatives, the only thing keeping you alive is movement. Not just external movement, but the purpose that's moving and squirming within you. Its movement is keeping you alive. As you listen to these words, you will see that your purpose does actually have a pulse. If what you have dreams of doing, if it ain't moving, it ain't breathing. And if it ain't breathing, then my friend, that is defined as dead.